Welcome everybody once again. My name's Jason Brett. Welcome to Product Coffee. We're glad to have you here. It's going to be a really good round town hall discussion today around some of the roadmap obstacles that we see as we're trying to get our roadmaps pulled together and shared with our customers and our stakeholders. And what I want to do is I'm going to jump in here and start. I'm going to start a couple of things. I want to while I'm talking for the next couple of minutes, I've got a poll I want to launch here and ask everybody if you would please just take a quick minute to look at this. And the question is, what are some of the big roadblocks that you encounter in your day-to-day operations that you've seen people encounter struggling with getting their roadmaps accepted and having the impact and influence that they need to have both on the customer side and the internal stakeholder side? I'm going to launch this poll and get your feedback, and you may see that there's not an option that represents your biggest challenge. If you see that, go ahead and just drop it in chat and let us know what you're seeing there as well. So I'm going to launch that poll right now. That should pop up on your screen, and we'll leave that running for a few minutes while we go in kind of the next part, which is I do want to take just a quick moment and give a big thank you to our sponsors. We have the fortune of having quite a few sponsors here at Product Coffee that make this weekly program possible, and they do all kinds of things like help fund some events that we hold, help make sure that we've got good equipment to do these sessions every week, and they want to support the product management community in general. So I want to call attention to them, and I just dropped some links in the chat as well, and I'd encourage everybody to give them a visit. But Method, as we've talked about, is a digital agency that really focuses on helping our customers deliver great products with a modern product mentality. So not only do we help them design and help them with the strategy and the development and delivery of digital products, we also help them take on, upskill themselves so that they're operating on a higher plane and with greater product maturity as they go. We look for opportunities to help them improve their whole operation as we work. And Sophion is a technology provider really heavy in the innovation space. It's been around for about 20 years. They've got a great product called claimproducts.io that is a toolkit for product managers to tie your products to business strategy and create great visibility into how you're moving the needle along the way and your most important things. Genuine Parts Company is going through a major product transformation right now. They've got currently at least 30 openings for product talent. And so while there are a lot of companies out there that are contracting in their product management teams, Genuine Parts is growing aggressively. They've got, like I said, they've got about 30 positions available right now, and more up every single week. So if you're looking for an opportunity with a company that's going through a major transformation and is looking for people who can come in and help evangelize and innovate, take a look at Genuine Parts Company. They're the parent company of Napa Auto Parts Stores, and their operation is over 100 years old and truly impressive, and they're entering their next stage. And finally, productmanagementuniversity.com, where you can go and grab some training to help level up your career. John Mansour has been a longtime friend of Product Camp and Product Coffee. He's got some great free content out there, but he's also got some great courses for product managers who want to level up their skills, especially in the B2B product management space. Productmanagementuniversity.com. So thanks to all those sponsors for supporting us along the way. And please take a moment, look for that poll that I've got running, and you might have to tab around through some windows. If you clicked the wrong way, it should be lurking there in your Zoom client somewhere. There is a window menu at the top of your screen that'll help you find that as well. So that being said, I do want to call attention back to our book club that we have going. Product Coffee has a free book club, productcoffee.com/book club, where right now we are reading together as a group Product Roadmaps Relaunched. you can go over to productcoffee.com/book club and sign up for that. And we'll send you calendar invites to join us as we discuss the different sections and chapters of that book. It's a great community of product management readers who are looking to upskill and discuss the concepts in this really great book together. We'd love to have you join us for that. And we meet almost every Friday at 10 a.m. for that discussion, 10 a.m. Eastern. But today we're going to get into roadmap roadblocks, and that survey is running on your screen right now. I got a few folks, we got about 75% of you have filled it out, and would love to kind of get your perspective on what some of the big issues that you're hearing in these conversations. And if you don't see an issue that is familiar to you, please take just a moment and drop some of the challenges that you see with roadmaps being adopted, accepted, and leaned on in the way you'd like right in the chat. I see Luke's added one, Rob's added one, and we'll come back around to those in just a moment as well. So keep dropping those in there. And if you're looking for more information about this session and to find other upcoming sessions, go to productcoffee.com. Right here, you can go to productcoffee.com/now, and you'll get the landing page for this session. And on that landing page, you'll see a link to our notes document, which you can click on, that will take you to a Google Doc that we use together each week here at Product Coffee. And this is where, as we're going through our session and discussion, we'll grab notes, share insights, share links to resources that we've come across that might help with the discussion. And I ask that everybody participate in the creation of those notes. It's a resource that you'll have access to long after today's session. You can bookmark or star the notes document in your own Google Drive and save it. It'll be there for as long as you want it. You'll be able to go back to it and refer to it to remember what we covered here today. And building that together gives us another way to connect and build community. So you can drop your LinkedIn address down there at the bottom of the document, as well as you contribute, or even if you don't contribute, just to connect to more folks here at Product Coffee as well that are here for this session. All right, and that is it for our setup. So once again, I want to welcome everybody to Product Coffee, and let's get started with our discussion on roadmap roadblocks. I think we've got most people have participated in the poll in some way, shape, or form. We've got a few ideas in the chat box as well. So I'm going to go ahead and bring the poll to a close. And let's see here. And we're going to share the results out so that everyone can see them. So of the questions that I posed up there, it looks like the vast majority of you run into the challenge of people not understanding why certain features are and aren't present. Why isn't my favorite feature or my requested feature or the thing that I care about on the roadmap? And conversely, why is this item that I don't understand on the roadmap? What's it doing here? Why is it important? I'm curious, just kind of in the chat as well, which of you, who sees the first half of that more? I'm missing something that I want to see, versus the other side is I see something I don't understand. So, don't understand or want to see. Just drop that in the chat there. Matt sees both quite a bit. Rob sees don't understand. The EDCs both. So they, some of these early, especially from the, I hear you, Matt. We'll leave that in the chat. So, and then some of the other items that came up, the second most common that we heard was lack of trust in timelines and delivery dates. Rob said, how about they don't understand how the current product works? Tell me more about that, Rob.
I think we've all seen this, where you've developed a product, you're on the team, you know the ins and outs of it. You could do it in your sleep. I think about it kind of like the folks in the military that can disassemble weapons and put them back together blindfolded. When you get to that point and you're like, I understand this, in a way that, I should be valued, to answer specific questions. And then you get in and you're talking with folks, and they're asking for things that are literally already there, or they're asking for things that fundamentally shouldn't be there. And sometimes this is from like sales or executives. Like, why do we have this in there? It's like, because that doesn't make any sense. Or or again, they'll say, "What? Wait, why isn't this in here?" Like, and you say, "Well, if you actually click this button, there's the whole screen. Like, there it is. It's already there." You have to, when you get to that as an issue with your current product, that's bad enough. Now try and explain the roadmap. Right? I mean, they have to have a baseline understanding of what the product does and why it does what it does, right? Like that big question why that we always talk about in product coffee. And if they understand the why, and they understand what the current baseline is, then like, oh, now I see why you want to add this in the roadmap, why this is 12 months out versus this is 3 years out, or this is like, again, like Steve's, like if you're doing it now near next, like, oh, this is 2 sprints from now. All right, these are fixes. This gets me to where I need to be. Now I can build on top of it. And that's really, really important. And I've seen people just fundamentally not understand it.
Not understand the nature of the product and why it exists in the first place, much less how to use it. And yeah.
I mean, and unfortunately, I've had experiences where I've worked with great salespeople, and I've had experiences where I've worked with salespeople who are just looking for that commission, right? The great salespeople will come in and say, help me understand this. I've got a client who's looking for something like this. How can we solve for this, right? And then you get in and you collaborate with them, and you say, okay, this is what the client wants. This is what we can do in our roadmap. This is what we can do today, and this is what we can add to it. And like, here are the expectations you can set, and here's the pricing that's going to be associated with it. And again, I've been with other salespeople that are like, oh, just do it, right? You know how those go.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Are Rob and I the only ones here who have ever encountered that? No, no. Okay, good.
They leave it to the product team.
Yeah, they do.
So, yeah, sometimes yes, they do, and then we have to pick up the pieces and massage it a bit, and bring things back in alignment. So that's always fun.
And you said something, it's a really word that you used there, Matt, alignment. And that alignment is to something that's really important. I think as we look at that most common challenge that the folks here on the call are talking about, why not understanding why certain features are and aren't present. I would love to hear some perspectives, and anybody can jump in here, but maybe start raising some hands as you have a perspective after the first person jumps in, so that we can kind of keep some semblance of organized chaos. But I would love to hear your perspective on why we think this challenge exists in the first place. Why don't people understand why certain features are and aren't present, especially when we're talking about our customers, looking at our roadmap as we're in a presentation, or as our sales team is in a presentation. Why do we think those customers don't understand why the roadmap contains the things it does and doesn't contain some other things? I'd love to hear some perspectives on that. Come on in, Mark.
Yeah, I think it's several factors, right? One is obviously how you're communicating to your customers, not just how, but also how often, right? So regular communication is essential. But what I've done in the past, and I've had varying levels of success with it, is explaining to them the process that you have for prioritization and how something gets on a list, what doesn't get on a list. So for example, I don't put bug fixes ever on my roadmaps. That's not strategic. Okay. Those are going to get done. Or any customer specific issues, which we have a lot of. So, and the other thing I do is I have an external roadmap and an internal roadmap, with the understanding that the internal or external roadmap at some point is going to go to a customer, a prospect, and a competitor. So that's how you have to create it, is what do I want my customer to see and what is okay with my competitor seeing.
Yeah.
I'm also a big fan of less is more. So put on less and let them ask questions. But I think the communication, having them understand the process of not just the roadmap, but then how it gets prioritized is key.
Very good. Yes, I agree. I agree with what you're saying, and there's I think there are a couple more. Jerry's got a perspective. Bring it on, Jerry.
Yeah, so as the customer experience ambassador, I can report that we have this exact same issue. And I think it's just a lack of trust in your colleagues. When your boss is going to be cross-examined by their boss about what's in the product, they're going to come in and parachute into your work, and they're going to want to know all of the details. But they can't. I mean, it's just beyond human capacity. And so when you have organizations where everybody has to know everybody's business because no one trusts anybody, then you get situations where you have leaders that don't know their products, don't know their market, and everybody is so busy all of the time cross communicating to everybody in the organization that no one has the time to actually do their job. And I put a question in the chat. I just find it, and it's easy to get a little cynical about this, even for me. But the time that executives spend micromanaging, your work as product people just astounds me. I mean, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you stand it. But you get hired, and Mark will recall, he and I have had many conversations about this. You get hired because you're a experienced professional, and you get treated like a kindergartner from that day forward. I just don't understand it. Preach, Jerry. Thank you, Holly.
Well, Jerry, the obvious answer is because they all know more than we do.
Yeah. Well, Mark, that's probably the way it comes across, but I think there's also a lot of anxiety because they know they're going to go into a meeting with their boss and be cross-examined about what you're doing. And instead of bringing you in to debrief the boss, they have to try to become an expert in everything all of their direct reports do, and you just can't. So if I had one piece of advice for all of you is work on building trust in your work with your colleagues and get them off your back so that you can be productive, do the stuff you were hired to do as an experienced professional, let them go micromanage someone else. That would be my 2 cents.
I am frantically trying to rearrange screens here in my office because I have a poster hidden behind a screen that lists 5 different kinds of trust, and I am gonna end up tearing it as I pull it off the wall. But I got to get this because I was looking for a digital copy of it. I need to maybe recreate this, and it came from a book, and I can't even remember the name of the book that one of my leaders gave me years and years ago that I read. It was really a compelling book on work relationships in general, but and so you're calling out this notion of trust, and that applies not only to the roadmap but to the colleagues. And Rob, I'm coming to you next. I just want to drop this in here. There are 5 different kinds of trust, and I'll find a source on this for everybody. But the first being character, trust that someone makes good moral and ethical decisions. Second being competence, trust that someone has the abilities to do something well. The third, vision, trust that someone has correctly identified a good solution to an opportunity or problem. Fourth is motivation, trust that someone's not acting out of an ulterior motive, consciously or unconsciously. And 5 is appreciation, Trust that someone has the appropriate amount of appreciation or respect for a person, idea, or institution. So when we talk about trust in product management, the thing that I really got, thank you, whoever the anonymous Kraken is, we have released the Kraken, and I think you've got character, competence, vision, motivation, and appreciation. And I love anytime somebody says there's a trust issue. I love running myself through those 5 filters and asking myself, which kind of trust are we having down? Are we struggling with? And when it comes to the roadmap, I think that's kind of an interesting perspective as well, because all of these apply, and understanding where the trust issue falls is a really powerful tool for reconciling that challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So let's swing over here to Rob. I spoke way too long, so sorry about that diversion, but thanks for triggering that in me, Jerry.
Sure.
I need to put this out here with some of our regular stuff here.
Well, I'm going to interrupt Rob for 5 seconds just to say, so Rob, when you're interviewing people, in some fashion, find a way to ask about passion, but also, hey, if you hire me, are you going to trust me that I know what I'm doing? Or are we going to like be kindergartners and, you know, I'm going to have to look up, you know, you're going to check on my stuff 52 times a day, and you're going to insist on details that you don't need to know. I mean, you're not trying to hide things, but these people have day jobs. You know, they should go do their day job and let you product folks do your thing.
Trust you to do the job they hire you to do.
Yep.
Absolutely. So Rob, you had your hand up there a moment ago. Did we cover it already? Did I walk on you, or you want to bring it back up?
I'll bring it back up. It ties to the trust, right? It's the communication issue. So when you were talking before, it's not only that it's a trust thing, but it's am I saying things in a way that people can understand, right? And when I've seen these sorts of things, both internally and in client presentations, you get in there and someone's getting just the biggest snow job ever, right? 50 slides of crazy that hide all of the stuff. And literally it's like, look, I have this one need. Do you understand the need? Are we communicating appropriately on that? And then can I trust that you understand that, right? Like literally, like, I need to get from New York to Paris. Do you understand that? Don't build me a car. I need a boat or a plane, right? And then at that point, like, are you making sure that you're being clear, concise? No one wants to sit in a meeting for 6 hours talking about stuff when you can do it in 15 minutes with 10 slides. And sometimes that is literally the case when you're trying to talk about, like, this is what the product does. This is what it will do tomorrow. This is what it will do in 3 years. And I take that as a personal challenge, because I've been working with folks over the past few years, and I've constantly questioned myself, like, am I communicating appropriately? Am I using the right words? Are these people at a stage where they just don't understand the words and the concepts? So I have to take it to them, and then they will trust me. Then I will earn that trust. That then when I go in and I say, this is what we need to do, right? They can say, well, I'm going to trust and verify, or they're going to say, I trust you completely because you've earned that, right? And I think that's super important.
Absolutely. Yes. And that's that key, is that earning of that trust. And one of the things that I want to see what Luke has to say, because I hear a recurring theme here, and I want to see how it continues to kind of rise up here. Luke, go ahead.
So I'm going to add 2, because I think the theme is becoming clear. But when executives are getting into the weeds, I'll work backwards from why that often is happening. We often see it because they don't understand what the team's working on from a value to client perspective, or client value to customer perspective. So we often coach clients and work with our organizations to say, all right, is the client and the customer in the center of the room in what we're talking about? Do we understand the value of what we're delivering through the product? Can we tie that feature to that value set? Because when executives hear that and senior leadership hear that, they can digest value at a high level tied to the experience of the customer, the growth of the platform in whatever way is appropriate. But if you don't tie it back in that value sense, what happens is they get lost and now they want to know details in the weeds about, well, what's going on? What are you working on? Because you haven't stopped them by bringing that value prop to the forefront. And of course, the value prop for that client center of the room. So that's my addition to what's been said already. But it does come down to trust, but it also comes down to speaking the language that that senior leadership needs, and or your sales team and or your marketing team to be able to ensure they're tied in with you as well.
100% true. And that reminds me of a session that we had a few months ago. I'll drop a link in to the chat here in just a moment on do you speak C-suite? And that's kind of right there. Or are you communicating in the language that your stakeholders can understand and really resonates with the challenges they're thinking about? Steve Youngblood, love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, we were obviously roadmaps are something that you not only create and have the possibility to change, but more than likely you need to not change them that radically and deliver on them, which means the way that senior executives can ensure that things happen is to not only get agreement, trust with the people that are creating the roadmap, approve it, and then expect results, and then expect that you deliver what you said you deliver. And I think what I heard a number of other people say is people can't seem to stay in their lane. You know, the CEO can't go out and raise money. He's so focused on trying to manage, focus on the major and the minors, that they've forgotten their job is to go out and talk to the people that deliver money or key customers or key investors. And instead of saying, I agree with you, I trust you, now deliver, and at the end of the quarter, we'll make sure that you delivered what you did. And if you didn't, you don't get your bonus, or you might be fired, or whatever the punishment may be. But I find this all across the board. If you go back a long time ago, our craft sat under marketing or by itself. And today it sits more under technology, which again is technology not staying in its lane. And instead of people basically saying, I own this, I agree to this, I'll deliver a stack of technology. And if I don't, I'll be punished. And if I do, I get a bonus. So I think part of what goes along with trust is people staying in their lanes, holding us accountable. So let us create that roadmap, get approval on it to begin with, and then we deliver on it. And if there's some reason it needs to change, that it's an agreement upon all of us that perhaps there's been some change in the market, or perhaps we're moving where we want to go. But I find things sometimes I love agile, development tools and the concepts. But they force us to think very short term, and product managers have been forced to be project managers. And It used to be project management was held by an engineering manager. And so again, all these things we've been pushed into the weeds, our senior people getting in the weeds instead of saying, no, let's all be strategic in our ways and be held accountable for what we do good or what we do bad. I don't mind losing my bonus if I don't hit the mark. And I usually want that bonus.
Right.
I think most people do. By the way,
I don't think I've ever had a bonus opportunity that I said I didn't want the bonus.
Yeah. So, no, it used to be, you're talking 15 to 20% in the past for an average product manager. Those were significant, sums of money. They made Christmas really nice.
Yeah, they do.
So
I want to, and thank you. And that's a really good alignment as well. That's really kind of leaning towards, I think, the competence side of things as well as the vision side of things, is understanding, can we actually do it? Do I trust your ability to actually deliver what you're saying? But also, do I trust that you're doing it for the right reasons? And Holly, I want to let you land this one. We still got a few hands up, but there are a couple of other questions that I want to move to as well. So Holly, I want to let you land the plane on there, or bring your perspective and see if we can kind of tie this all in together here. While you do that, I'm going to take my headphones out and real quickly see if I've got that book that I was referring to over on my shelf here while you're talking.
Super exciting. So I get to say things you're not even going to be aware of it. It's amazing.
I'm going to keep one headphone in, and I'm going to stretch really hard. So wish me
Okay,
luck.
probably safe. All right. That'll keep me honest. No, I was just going to comment on a couple of things that my friends, both Steve and Jerry, hit on. Jerry, you said something and you said that they can't take you into that corner office, right? The reason that people micromanage, as Jason pointed out, is around trust, but also their need to represent that detail to their leadership, who's also expecting them to know it. And I think if you can build that relationship the right way with all the trust, that's something you can actually work on and really try to get to resonate with them as I should be in that conversation, not because you don't know something. It's not I brought you because I don't know what I'm talking about. It's this person is the expert of that. This person owns that. Bring them in the conversation if that's what the conversation is about. And it's a long, hard road, but I've done that successfully several times where I managed to train leadership to have that conversation with the right people, and finally got Edie, right, Chris Taylor at Fiserv to go, oh, that's a question for product. Insert Holly, hi, customer, or whoever, ask Holly that question. So and it is a thing that I think you have to work on. That's part of that relationship. So I was just going to comment on that. And then Steve, totally on the project manager. I think, when you talk about educating our leadership or your organization, it's really important to differentiate product from project. It's a power team up. And that's how, for me, you want to successfully present that, is that as a product manager, I am most successful and I can deliver the most value if I have an effective project manager. And make sure that when you're communicating to, Luke and several others, you've said so many great things about communication, and Rob, right, as well. But that you're not communicating at a level that is a Gantt chart. If you're communicating in a way where you sound like a project manager, that's what people are going to think PM stood for at the end of the day, not product vision, product strategy, product leadership, any of that stuff. So, make sure you are, it's the old, dress for the job you want, right? Make sure that you are acting the job that you believe you have or should have or that you want to have, not the thing that, you feel like you're sometimes, getting pulled down in the weeds, but don't resonate that, because then that will become your thing. And I'm very famous for saying I have mad respect for project managers. My mother is one. I cannot come anywhere near her. So let project managers do that, because they do it really well. And then they can manage us product managers.
Yeah.
Actually, Mark has his hand raised.
Yep. Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was going to say, I agree with all the points I heard, having customized roadmaps for different consumers so that they get the information that's most pertinent for them, to being, customizing the message, to being consistent. One of the challenges when I've gone into roadmap meetings or any kind of executive or client meeting where there's been a major failure, it's that everyone thought they knew where that person was coming from. Everyone thought they knew what that person's perception of the situation was. Nobody validated it. So we went out of our way in any major sales initiatives, any major customer pursuits, any product efforts where we were presenting to either senior executives. We always had a pre-staging meeting. You go, if it's an exec, you go get coffee with them, or you take a few minutes, just talk to them, find out where their head's at, what their current point of view is, how they're thinking about things, because you want to make sure that you can context your message within their framework. And especially with a lot of clients, you're going to some clients that they smile politely and they say yes to everything, and you have some clients that will grill you on everything. So you want to make sure that you know where they're at, how they're going to approach this, what are some of their key concerns, what are the things that are going to set them off. We used to go into any kind of major client initiative and say, what are words that are going to set them off? What words should I not use or say, because they're going to stop listening and start banging their pencil on the table or getting aggressive or start looking at their email. So finding the time to do that. And even if it's someone you've worked with in the past, if you haven't talked to them in a little while, you still want to do that, because things change, and you want to make sure that you have a clear understanding of that person you're going to talk to, if you really want to get their buy-in and you really want to get their support.
Yep. Understanding the language of your target audience, of who you're speaking to, understanding where they are focused really helps with communicating and tying things together for them in a way that they can receive and see value in.
Yeah.
Matt, go ahead.
And their language at that time.
Yeah, and
It
and
changes.
that's really good. It changes over time. That's a really good
Yeah.
point. Matt.
Yeah, so I did product program with a group, product faculty a while ago. I just wanted to push reset. I'd been doing things trial and error, and my company was willing to pay for it. But one of the founders of that program just made a post today about how strategy tends to fail like 90% of the time because there's a grand reveal. And I think that's one of the traps that sometimes we can fall into, is that the executives just want to know what's going on. Okay, we have to put ourselves in their shoes, and they need to have that trust that the customer's vision and their own vision with the business is going to be delivered. So they call for a meeting, just comes from down on high. Hey, let's talk about the roadmap. Let's have a meeting about the roadmap, schedule one for this quarter, whatever. When really, and to Mo's point, this needs to be a continuous discussion. And I think that's the one problem that some of us find ourselves falling into, is we get so caught up in the tactical day-to-day stuff that we lose sight of the really important continuous relationship building and trust building that is necessary to even execute on your ideas in the first place.
Absolutely. And I think that perspective right there kind of layers into the recurring theme that I'm hearing in this discussion so far. And it's really around when we're talking about roadmap, so often what I'm hearing people describe is a release plan, is a list of things that are going to be delivered along some continuum. And when that happens, that is one of those places that those triggers start to emerge, where that confusion starts to emerge. And in its original, if we go back to the original language of a roadmap, well, that's a metaphor, and it's using a construct that we're familiar with from our day-to-day world, is that we used to, back in the olden days, we used to have these big accordion folded pieces of paper that you'd pick up at the tourist rest area as you entered a new state, and it would give you a detailed map of the state, and you could say, if I want to get to this destination, here are all the paths I could get there, and here's the path I'm going to plan to take. But if I run into something unexpected, a road closure, I can look at this and I can reroute, and I can change my path if I've got a good roadmap, if I know where I'm going and the ways that I can get there. So one of the keys and one of the recurring themes that I'm hearing here with a different word, and it goes back to that trust, that list of trust concepts as well, is the concept of vision or destination. Or where are we going in the first place? It doesn't start with the turns that we're taking to get there. It starts with where we're going to end up. What is the value we're creating for the market? Why do we exist as a business? Why does this product exist in the first place? What is the driving value that we're trying to deliver? And now, what are the things that we're doing in order to deliver on that value along the way? What I love offline Google Maps, as I've heard, a printed version of the internet. And I think what I'm hearing over and over again here in this conversation is people describing this challenge of the wrong features or the right features, and the trust involved in roadmaps is because they're looking at the details of the roadmap as a release plan and not tying them to, and this is where we're going. These are the things that we're doing along the way to get us to the destination, to the vision. Does that resonate with anyone here?
I think vision's too broad.
Okay, tell me more.
Yeah, because you can say, okay, our vision is to, usually visions are kind of flimsy from the highest level up, right? And then so we have to actually define that into something more concrete, and then be able to make sure everyone understand how we're actually going to get there. Because the vision's like, okay, we're going to be, the best CRM in the business. Well, we're not Salesforce, and also Salesforce is not the best right now, right? And so what aspect of what does good mean, and to whom, right? And then by when do we want to be the best at whatever the first pillar is that we need to knock down? What's the good, like for the first leg of the race, to know that we're actually going to be in pole position to be the best CRM. So I think you need to, break it down like, hey, I have an ambitious vision of 5 years from now. So like so many large companies, I know a lot of us work for enterprises or work with enterprises. They're like, we're going to spend, $10 billion over 5 years to come up with this platform rejuvenation plan, modernization, tech transformation, whatever you want to call it, ///. And then, companies hire people like me after 2 years in, they're like, we don't know where the hell the money went. People are just putting their own, rogue projects on there to solve tech debt. And then now we need accountability because the board wanted to know where, we're only in year 2 and we spent half of $5 billion. And we still don't know what our strategy is. But we had a vision. Do we have a vision, people? Yes, we had a vision. But everybody on their micro level want to maintain their own existing space in their own way. So that is where the conversation as digital leaders, I'm not going to say product leaders, as digital leaders in our space, of making sure that we align on exactly how do we achieve that vision.
Edie, I like what you said about the first pillar. Ben Foster gave an excellent presentation on vision and what this actually is at a recent lean product meetup with Dan Olson. And he talks about, in essence, like you're trying to get to the first rainbow and then the next end of the rainbow, and then you just keep moving to the next goalpost, or in your words, you're knocking down the first post, or you're knocking down the first pillar, and then you're going to the next one and the next one. But I'd agree, the visions tend to be very fluffy. They need some more definition on them, and enough guidance to be concrete enough that people understand what it is that they're working towards. But also they need to be inspiring, and one of the best videos I watched recently, I was looking for something good on vision. I was like, what the hell is this? So I looked back to that presentation by Ben Foster, and I also looked to Saeed Khan's vision stack. That's a really good thing to read about, meeting him if you ever get a chance. And then I found this awesome video by Arnold Schwarzenegger where he's like preaching about vision, and it was so inspiring. Like it lit me on fire. I was having no motivation at all that weekend, and I had to get this done because I had an exec meeting to prep. I think I posted about that in Slack, but wow, he explained it so perfectly. Like, you know what your goals are and you know what you're working towards. What's that?
Did you make it to the chopper?
I did make it to the chopper, and we flew. So it was awesome. But I wouldn't have been able to do that without, really truly understanding what that is. And you've got to work with your executive stakeholders to get that input too, because they're going to see it from a totally different angle than you are. And your chopper will never get off the ground if you don't.
If you don't have air support protecting it from above.
That's right.
There you go. That's great. Edie, going back and tying in something you said earlier in the chat to this notion of how you're communicating, if vision's too broad, or too broad or too flimsy. You mentioned earlier in the chat that one of the challenges here is your roadmap is too focused on following the competition rather than leading the industry. Tell me a little bit about how that ties in to what we're talking about here.
It's from lack of vision. Yeah.
So how do we right size the vision for the roadmap then?
Well, I think you translate the vision, right? Okay, we have a vision. We need to do this. At the end of the day, if you're a public company, you're like, okay, what do you want, your dividend to be? What do you want, kind of like earning per share, right? And then you break it down, like it's really like uninspiring and all that, as a executive, because you basically break it down into, okay, grow your portfolio this year by, $300 million. That's what we need. Like, so that's like the vision from the top, is to have better earnings. That's the only vision, folks. I hate to break it down to you. At the C level, at the CEO level. And then we say, okay, great, $300 million rev growth, that is about like 15%. And then to be able to do 15%, we really have to do something more desirable, right? Is it desirable for our existing customers? Is it desirable for new customers? Where are we positioned? I mean, this is this is where your product skills come in, and it's really thinking about business skills. Like we have a lot of conversation, because this number gets served from the top, and then so like the EVPs and everybody go into a room and say, okay, organic, we think we can grow this, we can reduce churn by that amount if we can hit this number, and then you come back with kind of a back of the napkin, like, here's the opportunity, right? Like, this is what I want to talk about with my EVP. Here's the opportunity. And then I break down, okay, this is what the sales team's committed to. This is what the client success team committed to. This is what your implementation team think that they can do. Guess what? We are about 100 million short. And this is where product comes in, right? Like, we're like, okay, I can make you $100 million if we do these type of things. And we do all these things to support all these other areas to make sure that they can hit their numbers with less resources, less customer friction, whatever it is. So from that point, you create the vision and then you translate it into something specific. If you're using OKRs, kudos to you, but 90% of companies don't do it right. So you have to really write it down in layman terms of, here's the things that we're trying to grow to be able to achieve these 3 things across the board. And here's some discovery. We're not going to commit to anything, folks. We're going to do some discovery of new areas where we think the potential could be. But all these other things of, reducing churn and improving implementation, like, that's pretty known fact. Like, this is our business as usual. And then we can start executing on the things that we know that are low hanging fruits. And then to be able to show traction and knock down some of these pillars while we work on this discovery stuff and figure out like where this net new money is going to come from. So usually, I end up breaking it like down like that to come up with it, whatever our goals are for the year, and sometimes multi-year.
And it's important to point out that if you go in with a list of features you're going to release in the next 2 sprint cycles, you have zero credibility with that roll up to senior leader. Right, Amy?
Yeah. It's mostly missing. Like, then you're going to miss your dates anyway. So you should not just, you don't even put that out there.
Yeah.
Unless you know what you're doing.
Yeah. It's about the product and the plan and the future. It's not about what are we working on today? What's the headache today?
No dates on roadmaps.
That's a release.
Ever.
That's
Thank you.
exactly right.
Edie.
That's a release plan. Your
That's a
roadmap
release
is
plan.
not your release plan. Yep.
What do I look like, a dev manager?
I actually explained that recently. I literally pulled out what a release plan looks like, and I said, I believe this is what you were asking for, but it is not what I am giving you. And it was well received. They were like, wow, that's really the difference between a roadmap and a release plan, huh?
I did that too, Matt. I kept being told that my roadmaps weren't roadmaps by execs and leaders at another company I worked at. And so I did the same. I pulled out a Gantt chart and then a release plan and said, are these what you're expecting? Because neither of these is what I'm here to build for you.
Here's my vacation release plan.
And they do a great job, but that's not what this is for.
Love it. Mark Isbitz, we got time for one more comment, and I'm gonna let you have the last word.
Oh, gee, now you put pressure on me. Yeah, I mean, I think too, it's really important to understand where your products are in their maturity in terms of what could get done, but also what the expectations are. So I've traditionally been involved in new product launches, new markets, et cetera. And what I also find is that both the customer base and especially internally don't understand. They throw the term MVP out, but they don't fully understand what it means quite often. To them, MVP is a finished product. And to me, it's the beginning of the product and hence minimum viable product. But I think also, is your product kind of closer to end of life where you're doing more maintenance? Is it still in the growth phase where you have to keep adding, features, functions that are going to provide significant value, or are you just kind of maintaining it? But the comment I put to in the chat is something I find quite often, especially in like mid-sized companies where I rarely have gotten a product revenue target. It's, hey, we want to increase our, overall revenue by this, and then they don't break it down by product. And so again, when I have new products, I say, well, is $1 of that product, which sells for $1 million and has 15 customers, the same as my product, which is same as $1 of my product, which is just getting started and has one customer. And I think that's also really important because, again, it's setting up expectations. If they say we don't care, then I have to understand, well, the salespeople are going to sell the other products, be very focused on those because it's a shorter sales cycle. It's more commission because it's a higher price tag. It's more mature, so it's easier, whatever the issues are. But you have to take all those things into consideration because otherwise you're just not giving the full picture to people who are asking. Although I like the idea of the release plan versus a product plan. I need to start using that more.
Yeah, and I think that's, and as I kind of circle back here, thank you, Mark. That's exactly where I think we want to kind of land this a little bit. And I circle back around to Veronica. I don't know if you've heard something here that is helpful for you as you're thinking about your quarterly roadmap. But the question I would encourage everyone who's been a part of this discussion today and beyond to get really focused on is when you hear roadmap, getting absolutely clear on whether your audience is looking for a release plan to understand when certain work or what's going to happen in the next release, what features are going to be present, what features are not going to be present. That is one set of activities. When there's a Gantt chart involved, we're talking about what activities are going to happen when, what does development think the development team thinks they're going to deliver at a certain time, versus a roadmap, which I view as a much more strategic document that talks about here's where we're going and here's how we intend to get there. It's not necessarily date driven, but it is certainly milestone driven. It's certainly and when I say milestone, I'm talking about here's a problem that we need to solve in order to deliver the value that we're trying to deliver. And here's the order in which we think we need to solve them right now. We may run into some obstacles along the way that cause us to take a detour or a different route, and we'll reroute needed, but here's where we're going, and here's how we currently plan to get there. And you might overlay that with, we'd like to get there sometime this year, or we think it's going to be three to 5 years before we get there. That can be part of the conversation, but it's about destination and path to destination rather than it is about dates and speed limits and rest stops specifically.